From a movie being filmed over 12 years to an intense film showing the life of a soldier trying to balance duty, family, and suffering from PTSD, this past year proved more than any other that film still matters. In this episode, we're going to take a look back on some inspiring films and performances that also started important conversations. I'm Arthur Kade, and it's time to go behind the velvet rope. Many biopics gave us an intimate look at the lives of legendary icons like Stephen Hawking and Martin Luther King Jr. Steve Carell took a career-defining role as the unstable coach John DuPont, and Michael Keaton's performance in Birdman ironically mirrored his own career. The transformations that each of these actors underwent, taking aspects from real life and adding their own touch to create a character on screen, proves that the craft of acting still matters.
Birdman, the reception, one of my favorite films of the year, the reception that you've gotten. Is it still surreal to see how much people are connecting to this movie and really enjoying it?
Sometimes it is surreal because the reaction is extraordinary, you know, just from people on the street. They're really specific about why they like it and how it makes them feel and how it makes them think, more than just about any movie, probably any movie I've ever done, yeah.
Stephen and Jane were heavily involved. Talk to me about meeting Stephen Hawking, because when we think of great minds, great icons of our generation, any generation, he's at the top of the list. When you get to work with someone like that, what's that like?
Well, initially it's terrifying because you've spent all this time, I'd spent all this time, you know, trying to do my homework and read around everything and look at everything and source all the material and go to all the places. And then when you actually meet the man, if you're like me and you suffer from sort of nerves and verbal diarrhea, you just end up just telling him about himself for like 20 minutes. And he's like, yeah, Eddie, I do know this information about myself. But he was so funny and kind. And in that meeting, that first time we met, the thing that I took away is that even though he is unable to move virtually any muscles now, he's still sensationally expressive. Like his mum talked about the fact that Stephen had the most expressive eyebrows, and that was wonderful for when he was unable to move things, because you could always find expression in him, and that's what I took away was the glint and the humor and the wit, I suppose.
You as John DuPont in this movie, Foxcatcher, remarkable movie, but your transformation is just magnificent. Talk to me about putting this role, this character together, because we forget we're watching Steve Carell and we now see John DuPont.
Well, it was, you know, there's a lot of research. It was the first time I ever played a real-life person, so the approach was a little bit different in terms of that I had books to read that he'd written, I had footage on him, he commissioned a documentary about himself, so I had all of that, and being able to interview people that knew him, worked with him, wrestled for him, so to be able to paint a picture and to try, you know, again, it's my best estimation as to the type of person he might have been. But it was challenging and an interesting sort of journey to take.
Possibly my favorite performance of the year was yours, David Oyelowo, because
thank you.
Playing an icon, a man that is known globally around the world, is hard enough, but to do it the way you did it in such a pivotal time period is absolutely brilliant. Talk to me about playing MLK and also here the National Board of Review. It's so cool.
It is very cool, and it's just one of those amazing things that you can't anticipate is going to happen within your own lifetime, let alone to you. I just feel so blessed that it was me. There are several films that could have been made, should have been made since Dr. King passed away nearly 50 years ago, but it's taken this long, and I'm just so glad it's me.
Recently, we've celebrated the complexity of women whose strength was tested in difficult circumstances. Julianne Moore played a college professor struggling to maintain her career, family, and intellect while battling Alzheimer's. Felicity Jones portrayed Stephen Hawking's wife Jane, whose resilience never wavered. Marion Cotillard depicted a mother and wife determined to get her job back in a fight that seemed futile. Women do matter, and hopefully this year will be an indication that more dimensional female characters will grace the screen for years to come.
Getting nominated for this role, it is such a touching an authentic role. Did you know it would resonate the way it has, not only critically, but just with normal people like myself?
No, I didn't. Honestly, I knew I responded to the script. I love the script. I love the book. I love what Lisa Genova wrote. And I was very touched by it. So that's why I wanted to be involved in it. But you don't know. I mean, you really don't have any control over how a movie is going to turn out. You just do the best work you can.
Julian, in such a storied and wonderful career, when you get these types of accolades, it's got to mean so much more each and every time.
It's great. I think one of the things that you learn is that it doesn't always happen. It's not a guarantee. So your film may not catch on, your performance, but people may not respond to your performance. So to be singled out like this for a tiny little movie, for something that I cared about, is very unusual, and I don't take it for granted.
It's interesting because with Stephen, we see the transformation from college years on, but Jane is such a strong woman. That's what we see Stephen and everything he's accomplished, but to see the story of Jane and how strong she is, how intelligent she is, how fierce she is, talk to me about bringing that to life, because I think that's such an important part of this movie.
But that's what she has is fierceness. That's exactly the right word. That she's you know, I met her and she's tiny. She's miniature, but inside is this phenomenal power and strength and determination, and that's what my job was, to capture that.
When you play such a controlled character, someone dealing with ethical dilemmas versus self-preservation. Talk to me about building this character and having 2 days to make these decisions of whether she helps herself or helps other people.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, one of the first questions that I had when I started working on the script was if I was in the situation of having to vote against one of my coworkers, what would I do? Well, there are a lot of things that comes in the picture. Do I know this person? I need this money to feed my kid. What would I do? And then the question shifted to what would she do? What would my character do in this situation? And the question of solidarity is a big question in the society we live in, because solidarity happens when you don't know the people you help, and when you don't care about who are the people you will help, and you just help because they're in need. So the answer was. I don't know if she would have voted for someone she didn't know right away, but for sure if this person had come to see her and do what she does in the movie, she would have given her bonus away to help someone.
From Ralph Fiennes in Schindler's List and Jodie Foster in Taxi Driver to more recent films like Heath Ledger's now legendary performance as the Joker in The Dark Knight, supporting characters often are the most memorable part of a film. Many A-list actors have taken smaller roles in great films that nearly overshadowed the main characters, showing it's not about the amount of dialogue, but that it's a character that matters. Let's take a look back at some of the new characters who have already made their mark in film history.
Making this movie over 12 years, the vision that you, Richard, Ethan, Eller put together is incredible. Talk to me about this process.
It was such a beautiful process. I mean, I think a lot of people would probably freak out by it because we didn't have a full script to begin with. The first time I talked to that Rick called me about doing this movie, he told me all the main changes, but there was no script per se. So when I watched the movie, it was so bizarre to see the scenes my character wasn't in. Discover who Ethan was as a father on screen, and learn more about his character and who my kids were when they weren't around me. And it was just really an incredible organic experience and a very collaborative one. We did a lot of improvisation and it was very structured and everybody supported each other.
Making this movie, you and Richard Linklater have had such an incredible relationship working together, making this movie over 12 years. Talk to me about the process and telling this incredible story.
I don't know, it's the only time in my life I've done anything that, where I've made a movie that wasn't like another movie. Training Day is kind of like French Connection, or Dead Poets Society is kind of like Goodbye Mr. Chips, or whatever, And this movie's not like anything. I almost feel sad, releasing the movie. It's been this private little secret project we've been working on for more than a decade. you know, whenever my life was tough or bad, I would always think, well, I still have boyhood. I'm working, that's going to be great, you know.
When you have a year like this, where beautiful movies, talk to me about it.
It's always surprising to me. I mean, there are so many incredible actors, actresses that have yet to break through. You know, if you look at the statistics for SAG, it's so sad when you see the unemployment rate. And so to think, you know, how incredible it is that I get to work with Liva Ullmann and J.C. Shandor and Christopher Nolan and Ned Benson this year. It's been really special and humbling because I know there's other incredible actors out there too that I want to see them also get those opportunities.
There's almost like a symbiotic relationship here between Jake's character and your character, because you have two people who are ambitious. They want to make something of themselves, and they're drawn to each other because of that. Talk to me about building that chemistry with him through those characters.
I think the dialogue was so good, and it was so there on the page that really all I had to do is listen to that dialogue and listen to Jake deliver it, and he is so brilliant in this movie that really it was for me just listening. And it was like I say in E-Ride at Disneyland, but I know you're probably too young to remember that, but it is really, it is, you go through so many emotions at once that that's all I could do was listen and then react to that.
The physicality, the mental anguish, working with Steve, who turns in an Oscar caliber performance, making Foxcatcher, what was that like for you?
It was probably one of the toughest things I've ever done, but also one of the probably most rewarding. It was. I'm 46 and Dave Schultz is 33, and
you got in great shape, man.
He was in the height of his but I was hurting. And I was reminded of my age and my limitations every day. You know, nothing worth a damn is easy, and I think this movie. I know we all really. It was a tough go. You know, it was gritty. It was cold. It was low budget. But at the end of the day, we really got somewhere. I think together.
The chemistry between you and Michael in this movie is outstanding. Was that immediate? Did it just click?
Yeah, it's pretty. Our biggest challenge was not cracking up and losing very long, complex takes that Alejandro was doing. So, I mean, I grew up laughing at him, so it's very, very difficult for me at times when he does one of his like patented, you know, deliveries or looks or something. I had a very, very difficult time not laughing.
You're a mean SOB, but the question becomes, is it worth it in this movie? Talk to me about making this wonderful story and turning a potential Juilliard into Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, and I love that question is, you know, people are coming down on all sides of the debate there, which is nice. Making the movie was a whirlwind because we had 19 days to do it, and with a young director going in, that's a little bit of a concern, but Damien knocked it out of the park, and you know, people are loving the movie everywhere we go.
You put Miles' character through hell, but for the end result, when you're going through this, does this raise questions in your own head about, is it worth it as you're playing this character?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's you know, sort of this almost Faustian deal with the devil kind of thing that we're entering into, and again, that's the debate, and I love that Damien lets the audience decide and doesn't come down too hard on you know, this is what I want you to think.
What matters most about a movie is the story, and the vision of these directors and screenwriters took the audience on a cinematic adventure. Richard Linklater showed us the stages of childhood in a way that felt so real in boyhood, while Dan Gilroy's Nightcrawler was a chilling take on the underbelly of the media. Morton Tildum's The Imitation Game exposed the truth of a World War II hero who was persecuted because of who he was. We caught up with some of these filmmakers and talked about putting their vision on the screen.
Making this over 12 years, we were talking about this at the studio earlier, is such an enormous undertaking. Were there ever worries, hey, someone might have a project, we can't do it, someone might get too big and doesn't want to do it? Were there ever worries around it?
Yeah, but yeah. They weren't really worries, you know. You commit to the life project and you just, you know, you work hard to try to make it work out. It was no more risky than anything else in life, you know. We all have these commitments in our lives, you know, whether written or not. So you just work hard and hope it all works out. And we got very lucky. You know, I feel very blessed. We got lucky. Nothing bad happened, but something really good things happened.
It's awesome.
You know, a lot of beautiful little moments happened that we kind of left room for. And
it was an organic process for you. I read
Very
that
much.
this was a story that evolved every single year, and you were basing some of it on what was going on in your life. Talk to me about that organic process.
I mean, this film is like you're collaborating with a certain volatile, unknown future. Like, you assume the future is going to be here, but you don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it's going to be something. So we were committed to working with that something.
Working with Michael, one of the greats, this ensemble cast. Talk to me about this experience.
Well, I think I was fortunate that they trust me. I don't know why they did it. Maybe I don't know. I give them drugs or something, but they trust me, and it was a leap of faith, and we trust each other, and it could have been wrong everything, but hopefully the people will think that we succeed. I hope.
The layers that Michael brings to this character, I was just talking to Zach Galifianakis about it. He was multitasking mentally while playing this character. Talk to me, when you get a performance like that, because you've worked with some great actors, but when you get a performance like that from him and Ed, what's that like being behind the camera and seeing that?
Well, I think that Michael is one of the few guys that really can navigate through drama and comedy in 1 minute, and 1 minute make you cry, and the other minute make you a little bit weird, and then he's funny, and then he's bipolar. I mean, he is that guy. So I think he's the only guy who can navigate into that, and he's lovable. You know, even when he plays a prick, he's a lovable prick as all the people that we know.
It's a story where we have the question of, is the torment that someone has to go through worth the end result? Talk to me about putting that to film, because we see what Miles has to go through in his character, but at the end, without giving too much away, we have that answer to that question. Talk to me about putting that to film.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's kind of a question you have to ask about a lot of works of art, or just a lot of kind of things we would consider great human achievements that came about through incredible suffering or incredible sacrifice or cruelty. And for me, I come at it from the angle of someone who I think it's important that people treat each other well, and so I wanted to put behavior on screen that I found particularly monstrous, but put it in the name of something that I normally would support, that is the creation of art and the importance of art in the world, especially today. So, you know, it was kind of hopefully it's a movie that, you know, can start a conversation about what exactly we're willing to put up with, and whether there's a better way.
It is such a fascinating story. Obviously, Alan's story is fascinating because of what he went through with World War II and what he was able to do. What was the power behind telling this story?
I mean, I think it's impossible not to be touched and infuriated in many ways when you hear about the story of this man. I mean, we owe him so much. We owe him, everything we carry on is in their pocket. I mean, this man invented computer. I mean, he started computer science when he was 23 years old. He theorized the computer in 1936. Can you imagine that? I mean, he was so ahead of his time. And then he saved millions of lives by cracking the Nazi Enigma code. And it's just infuriating how he was treated, how he was almost like erased from history. So it's about time we all get to know about him. I mean, he should be on the front cover of every history book in school.
There's such a statement on Meteor, and I was just talking to Lester Holt, who's one of the guests here, about how this is a real-life culture. When you get involved in telling this story, talk to me about that.
Well, telling the story, part of it was doing the research and realizing that not only these people going out at night, but when you get to the newsrooms, what's driving the newsrooms during sweeps weeks and other, you know, competitive weeks is this desire to show, you know, graphic images. It really is leading the news. It's forming the basis for a lot of what they show. And you can see the gun that these people are under. They need ratings. And it turns out that all of us like to watch these images. So we indict local news to some degree, but I'm trying to say, like, look, we watch this stuff, all of us. I'm trying to cast a larger net.
Wes Anderson has gone from indie darling to beloved Hollywood director with his finely crafted comedy, The Grand Budapest Hotel. It's a long way from his debut Bottle Rocket, but his creative eye has never waned, and he proves that artists still matter. You guys have had the opportunity to work with Wes Anderson before, and you get to work with him again. What is it about Wes's work that draws actors like you back?
I think he gives actors fun things to do. He's also, you know, as an actor, it's really nice to enter a complete world a world really detailed, really personal, really specific, a world unlike any other world. It really gives you a chance to do things that you feel like you've never done before. And I think that kind of adventure is what appeals to a lot of actors.
And he is a brilliant, serious and artist and filmmaker, an important one, who's at the height of his powers, and he makes terrific movies. You talk to actors, I'll bet, who if they were told you their secret, they would say, you know, I've lived my whole life having a career doing this, but I would die to be in a movie with directed by somebody of that caliber. And plus the experience, he's, yes, very theatrical and whimsical and very particular in his style, but actorly, in the way he collaborates with great actors. That's why they want to do that too, and because he wants something authentic, naturalistic, truthful, emotional, soulful, you know, that he loves actors to do it with.
Tony, playing Zero, you and Rafe have such a unique relationship on screen. There's a friendship, there's a mentor relationship. When you get to work with a two-time Academy Award nominee like him, both on and off screen, what are you taking away from that? And also, in working with him, how did you guys build this really cool relationship on screen?
What do I take away from it? I mean, I'm pretty sure I took away a lot. You know, but from all the actors, because they were all so fantastic, I'm pretty sure I saw them work and I picked up things subconsciously that I'll add to my own style or process or whatever. But I was able to learn a lot from everyone. And then from Rafe, you know, the connection we made was kind of instant. Wes has a really keen eye, and I guess he knew that it was going to work instantly. Or maybe he was, you know, guessing. But either way, it worked. He and I would, you know, practice a lot off set, on the sidelines, or we'd read poetry together, you know, do tongue twisters and things like that, just to, you know, bond, and then also just to be better and to work, you know, as equals in a way. They really helped me feel very much like an equal, so I didn't feel in any way inferior or insecure or anything like that. They helped me feel comfortable.
Usually films inspired by true stories are made years later, but this year they were more topical than ever. Edward Snowden's life played across theater screens and news screens simultaneously, while Chris Kyle's murder trial was underway, picking up where Clint Eastwood's American Sniper left off. Film as a form of communication now matters more than ever.
After talking to everybody, A, I'm super scared about what's going on, and B, it's fascinating to see Edward Snowden as we never have seen him before. We really had never seen him before. Talk to me about really telling this story, both about this man, but also about one of the most relevant topics, which is the Nsc Security Crisis.
Well, sure. I mean, you know, this is a story both about the NSA, but I mean, really, it's actually a story about somebody who put their life on the line to reveal information that he thought the public had a right to know. And so you get to spend time with somebody who's basically risked everything, risked ever seeing his family again, maybe his freedom, and so you see it in the moment as it's happening, not somebody talking about it from the past, so it's pretty extraordinary.
This movie, American Sniper, just fabulous. When you get to make a story like this and also tell this man's wonderful story and get Bradley to turn in a performance like he did, talk to me all about it.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure doing. Actually, I was editing Jersey Boys when I was preparing this, so I didn't, which was good in a way because I didn't overthink it. I was just kind of thinking, okay, I'm going to do this and do that and do that when I get to it. And then when I got there, and then Bradley was, I wasn't surprised that he was great in it, but it was almost seeing him do it was really good, and the cast fell together really well. The rest of the cast, they're kind of a movie's an ensemble, and if the ensemble works, fine, but it's only as strong as its weakest link. So.
With great artists, there will always be films that matter. That's it for this installment of Behind the Velvet Rope. I'm Arthur Kade, and I hope you'll join us next time.